Beautifully handling, BBC Two.
On tonight's show, Tiff thrashes round the track in the interest of modern science to find out which is the best handling car you can buy. And Vicki attempts to split the Ariel atom.
Back in the 50s and 60s, Rovers were classier than Jags. Conservative and quintessentially British, they were the perfect wheels for a genteel, home counties world of Tudor semis, Ovaltine and reversible Macs.
Each Rover model has a splendid engineering tradition behind it, and a splendid future ahead of it.
But time hasn't been kind to Rover. That well-spoken world of the 3-litre saloon and the 2000 has been relegated to the Pathé newsreels. And for the last 30 years, Rover have been churning out cars which, how can I put this, have been anything but brilliant.
Until now, that is. Under the mighty wing of BMW, Rover want to reclaim the middle-class heartland it used to call its own. And to do it, it's got 3 new cars which have been repositioned, repriced and revamped. They've got a new corporate look and a slick new BMW marketing strategy.
Tonight, we're going to give our verdict on the 25, reassess the 75 and test drive Rover's 45 V6. Plus, we're going to see how their image is faring in the UK. But to kick off, the new 25.
New is perhaps the wrong word for the 25. It's a warmed-over 200, a car that always felt a bit out of its depth against bestsellers like Golf and Focus, which is why Rover have repriced it to compete with super minis like the Fiesta and the Polo. At between 8 and 15 grand, suddenly the 25 feels like a lot of car for the money. I've brought my tartan travelling rug and my National Trust guidebook, but I'm not going to need them because this 1.4 IS is an absolute blast. 16 valve, 103 brake, 60 in 10 seconds and 115 top. This is not a place for tweed jackets and stout brogues. Tweaks to the oily bits mean the steering's sharper, body control much tighter, and it handles like a hot shoe hatch. In fact, it does exactly what it doesn't say on the tin. So, whilst the 200 was never much fun, this 25 definitely is, and it makes the Volkswagen Polo feel like a donkey cart. Only the Fiesta chassis can match it for laughs. Inside, there's more room than there was in the old 200, with new, much more comfortable seats and new trim. The whole thing has a more quality feel about it, something sorely lacking in the old incarnation. The fit and finish of the cabin may not be quite in Volkswagen's league, but it's better than the Ford and a vast improvement on old Rovers. Plus, you get a 3-year, 60,000-mile warranty, mid-40s MPG, and it only needs servicing every 15,000 miles. And BMW assure us those Rover dealers will be trying an awful lot harder. A huge surprise then, the 25 is a class act, and at 12 grand for this 1.4 IS, not bad value either. No, this little charmer will do Rover's image no harm at all. And neither, for that matter, will that.
The 75 is the most powerful weapon in Rover's arsenal and the car upon which their entire future depends. Stay with us and find out what I think of this pastiche of nostalgia and who on earth it is that's awarded it the title of the most beautiful car in the world.
Every time we try out a new car here on Top Gear, one of the criteria we look into is its handling. Not just so we can have some fun on an airfield, but also as a test of how a car will react in an emergency.
But what is the best handling production road car? Well, that might just depend on how you prefer your car to feel, because handling is a very subjective thing. So we brought along 4 machines that reflect the best qualities in 4 very different approaches to car design. front-engine, front-wheel drive Peugeot 306 GTI 6. Front-engined, rear-wheel drive BMW M Roadster. The awesome front-engined, four-wheel drive Mitsubishi Evo 6. And finally, Ferrari's mid-engined, rear-wheel drive 360 Modena.
And to make sure it's not just me picking my favourite, I've been joined by former British rally champion Mark Higgins to take the cars to the limit and compare notes. Let battle commence. So, what are we looking for? Well, primarily we want a car that does what we want it to do. One that doesn't have any sudden vices that catch us out. One that communicates to us both through the steering wheel and the seat of our pants. One that puts a smile on our faces. First up, the 306.
The little Peugeot, regarded by most as one of the finest handling front-wheel drive cars around. So, let's put it through its paces. At high speed, this little Peugeot is impeccably well behaved. 70 mile an hour cornering, neutral, you just lift off the throttle, the rear steps out slightly, and then it's full power all the way out of the corner.
The car's quite well balanced and you can actually position it on the road exactly where you want to, just by controlling the understeer. And that's obviously a characteristic you get with a front-wheel drive car.
So, whilst this little Peugeot is incredibly easy to flick around these corners, you can't actually really have the fun of a power slide out of a front-wheel drive car. It's incredibly impressive, but perhaps not really what I'm looking for.
So what you need is rear-wheel drive, like the BM.
But with the front-engine layout, you must remember that the rear is a bit light, so you turn in a bit deep and a bit harsh. The back will go out, but you can then have a wild time catching it.
A lot of cars give a negative feedback when you do go sideways and they're quite snappy, but this is definitely very responsive to turning, which you've got there, and then power on oversteer. And the car at all times feels nice and safe, and if you want to, you can keep the car very, very straight, but then if you want to go sideways, use the power, and away she goes. This car is a little honey.
For smile on the face enjoyment, this is hard to beat.
But if anything can, surely the Evo can.
Here we are now in the Evolution 6 Mitsubishi, four-wheel drive, turbocharged, over 300 horsepower, and this thing feels quick.
Feel like you can turn into a corner at any speed you want, and then just hit the power, and it straightens itself up.
And it's got no real negative characteristics about it, but just, I suppose, in a big open space like this, it's a little bit boring.
Very impressive, but not overly exciting. And finally, the Ferrari, with that mid-mounted engine supposedly in the ideal position for the best weight distribution. So this high-speed corner, beautifully neutrally in, and tremendous traction on the way out. And that's really because it's got more weight over the rear wheels than the BMW, so the traction's improved.
A long open hairpin right, turning in, understeer initially, then the car fires out with oversteer. From a handling point of view, it does everything fairly properly. The initial understeer is not so nice, but it makes it very, very safe, and actually takes a little bit of getting used to.
But once he got used to it, Mark would obviously agree with me that the best handling car was...
BMW Roadster, got to be.
No, Mark, it is the Ferrari Modena. What are you on about? All right, OK, one thing we do agree is nobody's mentioned the poor little Peugeot
No, it's a lovely car and it does everything you sort of want it to do, but it doesn't really excite me at all.
So very predictable, very safe for the average driver to get near the limit in, but not much fun.
Very purposeful, yeah.
But what about your rally car? You're the rally man. Why not the Evo 6 for you?
I've driven it before on the road, it's great. Just here, just seemed to understeer, you couldn't really make the car. When you told it to do something, it didn't really want to do it. It had its own set way of doing everything.
But the Ferrari! I mean, beautiful, fastest, just mid-engine, perfect handling.
No, it's lovely. It's lovely, but it understeers and then it big time oversteers.
I knew what Mark meant, but I just hated to admit it. The Ferrari is just too much on a knife edge. So our award goes to the car that puts the biggest smile on our faces. The one you can do just what you want with. The BMW Z3 Roadster.
The world's press think the 75 is a bit of all right. The Japanese have given it their Import Car of the Year award. It scooped the 1999 World Car Award. Plus the Germans have given it their snappily titled Golden Steering Wheel Award. Not forgetting a huge honour from Italy. A panel of 12 Italian styling gurus reckon this is the most beautiful car in the world, and they preferred it to the Jaguar S-Type. Praise indeed.
Here at home, the reaction's not been so eulogistic. What Car may have dubbed it their Car of the Year, but Car weren't too complimentary, while our sister magazine didn't really like it at all. Well, let's forget what the British press think for a moment and ask the British public instead.
Old man's car, really. That's about it. I wouldn't have one.
I wouldn't expect to be excited by it, I'm afraid.
I wouldn't like to drive in a Rover. Old man's car. Doesn't suit my image.
Horrible.
A bit square really, a bit boring. Not particularly trendy, I don't think. It's a bit old-fashioned, I think.
Clearly Rover has a bit of an image problem in the UK. That quintessentially British quality gets translated into one word: old. And that's exactly the point of the new 25, 45 and 75, to drag the brand kicking and screaming into the millennium and inject it with some badly needed desirability.
Which is hard when some journalists get seriously spiteful. Last year, a tabloid newspaper ran a story knocking Rover, claiming there were two things you could see clearly from space: the Great Wall of China and fields full of unwanted Rover 75s.
Well, there are not fields full of unsold and unwanted 75s, far from it. Rover have so far managed to shift 7,500, which means that this car is outselling things like the Vauxhall Omega, the Alfa 156, the Audi A6 and even the S-Type Jag. So it's doing the numbers, and the sort of numbers most motor moguls would sell their children for.
This is all very confusing. Johnny Foreigner loves the 75, but the British press and public don't. So who's right?
You know, the Italians might have something. This isn't the most beautiful car in the world, but it is nonetheless damned handsome.
This high belt line makes the car look more important. The scalloped doors down here, they're a styling cue from the old P5.
And lots of chrome, not too much, but just enough. We like chrome mirrors, we like chrome door handles. And it might surprise you to know that this car drives almost as well as it looks.
This is the 137-mile-an-hour 2.5 V6 connoisseur, 24 grand's worth of what Rover would like to claim is the best front-wheel drive saloon in the world. It's not the best, but it's not half bad.
The interior may be a riot of borrowed styling themes, but it is very cosy and very welcoming. The red gauges are like a log fire. You could always warm your hands on them. You've got big leather armchairs, very welcoming. You've even got some wood panelling on the walls.
All it needs is some horse brasses, a thatched roof and roses round the door, and you'd have your own country cottage. Look, I like it. It's quiet, smooth riding, cosseting, and it insulates you from the wild and whirling world. This is that rare thing, a Rover that makes you feel special. Now might be an appropriate time to say stay with us, because in a few minutes we'll be looking at the last model of this trinity, the 45. Has Rover scored a hat trick? All will be revealed.
In 2 weeks' time, we'll be presenting the first ever Top Gear Awards.
There'll be 5 categories, including the Top Gear Car of the Year 2000.
But we've slipped in one extra category and we need your help.
We want you to vote for your favourite Top Gear item ever.
We've selected 6 and all you have to do is choose your favourite.
Then pick up the phone, call us and give us your vote.
Choice number 1 is the time when Tiff and Vicki had a little race.
Easy peasy pudding and...
If you'd like to see Tiff staring at Vicki's massive afterburners again, call 0900 144 7701.
I've got you.
Secondly, the chance to see Andy Willman at an American car show, naked. If you like your men hirsute and your ostriches proud, call 0900 144 7702.
Don't even think about it.
Maybe Tony Mason's short, sharp shock in a Reliant Robin does it for you. If a rolling tone gathers your vote, call 09001 447703.
Well, here they are. Choice of hatchback or saloon. State coming in a couple of years.
If you'd like to see Jeremy admiring the Vauxhall Vectra, call 09001 447704.
Yeah. Yes. No, it is. It's a good idea. I'll go for a drive. We'll play some music. We always do that.
5th on the list is That Drive. Tiff takes Jeremy and Quentin for a little spin.
A number of directions there, Tiff, all in one go.
Well, a few little spins. If you like your presenters shaken and stirred, call 09001 447705. And finally, Quentin's epic guide to cops and robbers' cars down the years. To watch the filth catch the scum again, call 09001 447706. And if you missed your fave, don't worry, we'll show them all again next week.
The Audi TT, one of the most stunning silhouettes of the decade. As pretty as a blank check, as cool as ice and good for 150 miles an hour. But this gorgeous £30,000 designer icon has a sting in its tail. In the last 6 months, there have been scores of crashes involving TTs. 5 fatalities in Germany, along with a string of incidents in the UK, have cast a shadow over Audi's pocket rocket. The claim is that when approaching corners at high speed, the TT allegedly breaks from its leash.
This isn't the time or the place to argue if the TT is safe or not. I just need the answer to one question. That is, why was this car recalled in America 3 months ago, while here in the UK, nothing of the sort happened? What Audi did was they wrote to owners of all TTs in the United Kingdom and told them to take their cars to Audi dealers where they would be fitted with modified suspension and a new rear spoiler to increase downforce. But this was an initiative from Audi, not from the government. And only in the last couple of weeks has the Vehicle Inspectorate got involved officially.
You see, in America, they're much stricter when it comes to automotive safety. The slightest hint of a problem and thousands of cars can be recalled by the government. In fact, Audi of America didn't wait to be told. They volunteered a full-scale recall of all TTs in the States, with details posted on the US Safety Agency's website. Letters were sent to owners with the blunt warning that in certain circumstances, control is lost and an accident may occur resulting in injury. The Yanks take recalls very seriously indeed. But in Britain, Audi issued a press release after the US recall saying they were responding to the wishes of TT owners by offering retrofit modifications at dealers. And owners were sent a letter saying it is possible the TT can react in a way that might take the driver by surprise in extreme conditions. The word recall was never mentioned. You might wonder if we're talking about the same car, but the reason for the difference is clear.
In the UK, the recall system isn't so formal. It's a sort of gentleman's agreement between the car makers and the government. It's really up to a motor manufacturer to recall a car if they think they've got safety concerns, but they don't have to. If the Vehicle Inspectorate disagrees with them, well, that's just tough.
Lots of cars get recalled in the UK. Last year the total was well over 1 million, and remember, all under the gentleman's agreement. Everything from hyperactive heated seats on Rolls-Royce Silver Serifs and Bentley Arnages to seatbelt problems on Ford Mondeos. But why wasn't a car that's allegedly claimed 5 lives recalled too? We asked Audi about the TT's problems, and they said, with regards to the TT, there is no technical defect. However, a number of customers have criticised the car's handling at high speeds close to the limits of stability. Audi has therefore decided to alter the car's behaviour at the limits by introducing suitable modifications. Now, I wouldn't want to make too many claims, but it is interesting to note that following our investigation, the Vehicle Inspectorate have now announced an official safety recall on the TT. But that still leaves the overwhelming question. Why doesn't our Vehicle Inspectorate have more muscle to make recalls happen instantly? They turned down our request for an interview, but said they were content with the status quo. Where there is a disagreement between the Inspectorate and the manufacturer on the need to recall, ministers can be advised and may publicise their concern. To date, it has not been necessary to invoke this action.
And here's my point. It's time that the critical issue of whether a car is safe or not is decided by an independent body with teeth and not a car manufacturer. Because recalls cost literally millions of pounds and generate an awful lot of negative PR, car makers often leave them as an absolute last resort. We need somebody who isn't interested in money or corporate face-saving to make that decision. Somebody who is interested only in safety. Let's hope the story of the TT doesn't get any bigger.
If you're an avid Top Gear follower, you will know that the Lotus Elise is one of my favourite cars. It not only looks superb, but it's also one of the most rewarding any petrolhead will have the pleasure of driving. And that is why I absolutely love this car. It has one of the best chassis of any car ever. And at £22,500, it's a fraction of the price of a Porsche or a Ferrari. It most certainly is at the very top of my wish list. But now there is a cheaper, lighter, two-seater road-going racer on the market that has the potential to knock the Elise from my #1 spot. It's called the Ariel Atom, and it looks as though it's been dropped from another planet. It's not designed for those who are on the shy side or who want a bit of comfort. This Atom is best described as minimalist. This Atom has no roof, no doors, no windscreen, no carpet, no heater, no stereo. And for heaven's sake, I'm sitting on plastic seats. But it is an awful lot of fun. Powering this very radical looking car is the same 1.8 litre K-Series engine that's in the entry-level Elise and the Rover MGF. It dishes out 118 brake horsepower, and this thing has a trump card because it is an awful lot lighter than even the entry-level Elise, and therefore it'll do 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, where the Elise takes a little over 6. It definitely has elements of being a single-seater racing car about it. The pedals are very close together, and the gear shifts are boom, straight in, no messing around. Steering is incredibly tight. It's just 1.5 turns log to log. But that's what's so lovely about it, because it means that you are totally aware of exactly the direction the front tires are pointing and are totally in control most of the time with how the car is behaving. This £17,000 rip snorter will appeal to hardcore driving enthusiasts who probably own another, more sensible car. With the explosion of interest in thrashing your own cars around racing circuits, the Atom couldn't have emerged at a better time. So, has it knocked the Elise from my top spot? Well, I am tempted, but as I need all the help I can get in the looks department, it's a bit too minimalist for everyday use. It is ideal as a fair weather friend though, and perfect as a track car.
So, time for the final curtain in our Rover drama. Can the last act be as good as the first two? Is the 45 as bewitching and entertaining as the 25 and 75? Well, there's only one way to find out.
The 45 range starts at £12,000 for the 1.4, rising to nearly £19,000 for the 2-litre V6 Connoisseur, and comes as a 4-door saloon or hatchback. We've chosen the 150 brake V6 with the 5-speed Steptronic Auto because it's potentially the most interesting. Mind you, it's also the most expensive, at a heart-stopping 18 grand.
But first impressions are encouraging. The 2-litre V6 makes all the right noises, and this sequential automatic is an absolute joy to use. You just bang away at the lever, down to 4th, down to 3rd, down to 2nd, and it all feels very slick indeed. What it doesn't feel, however, is fast. That's not to say it can't motor. Top tilt is a decent 127 miles an hour, but order up some beans from the engine room and 60 takes a fairly pedestrian 9 and a bit seconds. That's almost the same as a humble Astra 1.8. So if you're looking for something with some serious urge, I'm afraid this isn't it. And if you expect the same agreeable interior furnishings on the 45 as you get on the 75, you're going to be very, very disappointed. The dashboard is strewn with 80s switches that look like they've just been hurled like boiled sweets and just stuck there. And look, this is the mat from the centre console. This is an £18,000 car. And look, the passenger's electric window switch is down here. It's lazy, it's unimaginative, and it's dull. Sorry, you got to try harder on this one. In fact, the only part of the 45 where there is any discernible improvement is the chassis. Wider wheels, new springs and dampers, plus fatter anti-roll bars make it feel much more tied down and responsive. Shame the engine doesn't have the grunt to match. But to be fair, the 45 is a huge improvement on the old 400. It's well spec'd, it's got a 3-year warranty, it drives reasonably well. But it's no match for the Golf and the Focus. And I look at this and it reminds me of a middle-aged uncle in Nike trainers. It's the sort of car you buy if you can't afford a BMW 3 Series. But, and here's the rub, at 18 grand, you can.
But hey, 2 out of 3 isn't a bad score. The 45 may be only average, but the 75 and 25 are genuinely good cars. Which brings me round to the question that I've been hiding from all day. Is this gang of 3 going to be special, separate and distinctive enough to guarantee Rover's future? Well, I suppose that's up to you. If you go out and buy them in your droves, then Rover will survive. If you don't, well, we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed. But personally, I hope Rover make it.
Next week, Tiff and Vicki test a basket full of hot hatches to find out who really wears the crown.
Top Gear's back next Thursday at 8:30 on BBC Two.